right, so I know I'm about a couple of days past Memorial Day. I mean, Memorial Day was yesterday, but the weekend as a whole. And I want to just break down some things that I have about the weekend that I think people are just being really dumb about. And we already know the big star of Memorial Day weekend was Mandalorian. That opened up to the biggest amount. And I want to say that this is no way in shape or form comparing anything at all to last year's Memorial Day, which was just insane because that was like Lilo and Stitch and Mission Impossible, which opening up together on the same weekend, I already knew that was going to be big because Lilo and Stitch has nostalgia, and Stitch is like the most selling thing for Disney as far as like merchandise, like toys and like stuffed animals. Stitch sells so much. So if we're not even going to do that whole last year's Memorial Day was bigger. Yeah, it was. It was a big opening. I'm not going to deny that. But this year, I just want to talk about like the fact that the box office still looks good because people are trying to make it sound like it's not like the Doom Patrol people. That's not intended, but like the Doom Patrol people who are like, oh, Star Wars is back after 7 years and it's a fucking flop and it's not doing well. And first of all, let's just start by saying that it opened to over 100 million domestically, 2 million over 100 million, but still 100 million. That's a big opening for any film except for like a Jurassic movie. If it was a Jurassic Park movie, then I'd be like, all right, that's kind of crazy. But like for a lower end Star Wars film that is based off a Disney Plus show, that doesn't surprise me. Like, yeah, slapping Star Wars on it, you're automatically going to get some money, but it's not going to do like Skywalker money. Like the Skywalker saga is still Star Wars at its core. So what we were expecting, and then you got to think the Mandalorian as a whole opened up to like 165 million. So for people who like to say stuff, and this is where like my argument's kind of coming in for why I'm so irritated, is the fact that it opened up to 165 million worldwide. The budget for the movie was about 160, but LA had like a $20 million tax break on it, or some tax break that dropped it to like 140, 142, somewhere around there. So it actually cost less because of that tax break, which means that it actually opened up past its budget. Now, again, we don't know how much marketing was. Mandalorian and Grogu wasn't really marketed that much. So they probably realized, hey, look, we can just put it on Disney Plus for free, put it on ESPN for free, put it on ABC for free because we own all that shit. So they could just throw it on those channels and not have to pay for it because it's not really third party marketing, it's them marketing themselves. Now obviously they had to pay somebody to like put together the trailer. Yeah, I mean that's just what it is. They got to pay their marketing department. That's what they're paid for. But it sells itself when you realize Grogu is a very high selling toy because it's adorable, and then you got Star Wars attached to it. You got Disney owning Star Wars, so they can just market it themselves through their own medias. Now, as far as Instagram is concerned, yes, they'd have to pay like the YouTube brand and a bunch of other people to market their films. That's absolutely a fact. We're not going to take away from that. But I don't even see like the Mandalorian and Grogu billboards anywhere. I don't see Mandalorian and like obviously there's somewhere. I live in Philly. I haven't seen any here in Philly. There's probably some in Times Square because it's Times Square. But for the most part, people are trying to make it sound like the marketing for Mandalorian and Grogu was 150. How do you know that? Where is your source that says that the movie spent 150 more marketing? Marketing is never ever displayed. They never say how much they spent on marketing, right? And I've been trying to figure out a way to have this conversation. I think I'll just have a separate video on marketing at some point just to shut people up because it's getting irritating that they'll just say like, oh, the marketing plus the budget makes it like 400 million. I'm like, you don't know anything. No company except for maybe like Marvel, where they're like marketing Endgame or like Infinity War or like, probably Doomsday. It's probably gonna have a massive marketing campaign. But like I don't think there's ever a film in history that spent more money on marketing the film than the film's budget. That just doesn't make that is dumb. That is egregiously dumb for anybody. So let's just go there. So again, Mandalorian and Grogu is the cheapest Star Wars film. I want to change it. Mandalorian and Grogu is the cheapest Star Wars film in the Disney era by far. The Force Awakens cost way too much money. Same with Last Jedi. Same with Rise of Skywalker. All them was expensive. Solo was expensive. Rogue One ended up being expensive, unfortunately, because like Gareth Edwards tends to shoot on a cheaper budget. Like he shoots for lower budget films and make them still look good, and they come out wonderful. Rogue One is like my second favorite Star Wars film, but that ended up being like I think around 270 after like reshoots. I think it was like unfortunate that they had to reshoot, but like some reshoots had to happen. So there's that. But it just doesn't make any sense that the Mandalorian is being called like disappointing or a flop or Star Wars is dead because the haters on a side of YouTube that we're just gonna ignore for right now because I'm saving that for another video is constantly trying to push. And did it open huge? No. Did it open up to like these big ass numbers? No, it didn't. No, it didn't. Let's be fair here, it didn't. And the real question is, can it hold? I would ultimately say yes, because the era of like automatic billion-dollar films is kind of going out the window, which is kind of something we needed because I think the reason why people were putting so much money into the movies is because they were getting billions of dollars back instantly. And I think that's kind of been like slowed down a bit, and that's kind of where we are at in the movie industry. That doesn't mean the movie industry is dying because six movies didn't make $1 billion a year, but it does mean that there's this incentive to kind of reshift and show something. Well, we'll see. Like word of mouth is a good thing. That's a good thing. But like, past Mandalorian Grogu, just wanted to get that out there. Like, I've seen people who have said it's honestly not that bad. I've seen people who have said I took my kids to see it. My kids loved it. That's all that mattered to me. My kids have Grogu dolls. It is what it is. And there are people who are like, I would have liked this more when I was 8, but whatever. It's Star Wars. It was fun. It was a fun summer movie, and that's exactly what Disney was going for. They didn't, like every Star Wars film doesn't have to be Empire Strikes Back, one of the best sequels ever, by the way. But like, it doesn't have to be that. So that was a lot on Mandalorian and Grogu because that was honestly where this needed to really go, and people are just being dumb. Now, I want to say Michael is damn near at $800 million, and that is so fantastic because it's at almost 800 million, and it hasn't opened in Japan yet. It still doesn't open in Japan for about another 2 weeks. Another 2 weeks. I think Friday, June 12th is when Michael opens up in Japan. So within a month, it's made 780 million before one of Michael Jackson's biggest markets, which is Japan. I'm excited to see if Michael makes $1 billion because it seems like Super Mario Galaxy is going to be at $1 billion by that point, but Michael's not that far behind, and it's been out for less time. So like older audiences, like my mom, she was a teenager when Michael Jackson. Well, she was a small child when Jackson 5 happened, but she was a teenager in the 80s in Michael Jackson's heyday. So it just like people like that are going to see the film. It's nice to see older people back in the theaters, by the way. Like I think it's nice to see like older people taking their grandkids to see Michael Jackson. You got people who were like small kids in the 80s and 90s who are taking their kids to see Michael Jackson, then their kids like Michael Jackson. Now, it just shows Michael Jackson's longevity in the world, and it's it just makes me so happy because I saw it, I loved it. If you didn't see my video on Michael, please see it. I loved that movie. It wasn't like my favorite film ever. It was just nice to see Michael Jackson portrayed as who he was and like that nice story of breaking free. But people keep going back to see it because people love Michael Jackson. And that's what we like to see. Now, this is the movie that's blowing me the fuck away because Obsession is like the return on investment, like champion. Like it was like, and this proves that horror movies are very reliable. As I've said on my channel before, horror movies are extremely reliable. They're cheap, they are very inexpensive, and they keep practical effects studios alive, makeup artists, all that stuff, and they always tend to either overperform or do just enough. And Obsession being Blair Witch Project numbers is crazy. And like as far as like just budget wise, the money, I think it just passed 80 million, I believe, or it's almost at 80 million on that kind of a budget. It might be the most profitable film out right now because it costs so much less than pretty much any movie out right now. It's 68 million. So it's almost there. It's almost there. And it's just my God. My God, it's doing so well. There was no there was a lot of risk because it was an unknown, it was an unknown situation, but it's also that YouTube guy. I actually never saw any of his stuff on YouTube. I know it's a guy from YouTube. This is a big deal for horror movies. Horror movies has been making a really big splash on media and in the theaters for the last couple of years. You know, Weapons Centers, some other stuff. Then you got this was It Follows a few years ago. Yeah, horror movies, they are the Smile series. Like horror movies are doing really well right now. Alien Romulus, remember Alien Romulus like overperformed and it cost like 80 million, which was a lot for a horror movie at the time, but it was also an alien film, so it's like whatever's clever, but then like it also did like 350 to 360 million. Like Alien Romulus performed its ass off. So horror movies have a place, man. Now we gotta remember, Devil Wears Prada is like it just passed 600 million, which is crazy. That's like overperforming in and of itself. That's like millennials and millennial women and moms and daughters, and you know what I'm saying. Like that's a nice little thing. It's just like we have a little bit of a splash of everything in the theaters right now, and everything in the theaters with a little bit of splash is kind of doing what they need to do for their specific generations and their specific demographics, and that's just what it is. Now, I think this is one of the biggest weekends in a while. I think everything altogether was about $222 million, which, yes, it was less than last year's by probably pretty much over half, but it still did well anyway. And Star Wars just kind of added to that $220 million weekend. I think that's just mostly domestic. I think worldwide is probably way more than that. But yeah, it seems like original films are kind of making a splash back. People are asking for IPs. They're going to see them. They're supporting them. I didn't even add in Super Mario Galaxy, which is at like 980, I think. So like I said, another 2 weeks, it'll probably cost $1 billion threshold. They'll take it out of theaters because it'll be done by that point. And yeah, that'll be the first $1 billion film of the year. I assume and hoping Michael's a close second, or it actually does, and it is a second. Uh, this box office conversation is getting just out of hand with people. It's just getting out of hand. Everything's a flop. Everything's dying. Everything's this, and in reality, the box office in 2026 specifically is doing really well. Yeah, last year wasn't the strongest, but it was better than 2023. It was better than 2022. It was better than 2021. You see what I'm saying? But they're trying to make it. They always go back to 2019 and 2018 when there was like $4 or $5 billion films a year, which was unheard of until around 2012. Like most movies weren't making $1 billion until around that point. So for everyone to try to make something like $1 billion movies did become a very normal thing from about 2012 to about 2019. And the thing that people don't realize is between 2020, that was the only year between 2012 and this year where there wasn't $1 billion film. Even after the pandemic, 2021, we had Spider Man No Way Home. 2022, we had Top Gun Maverick and Avatar Way of Water. 2023, it was Barbie 20, and the Mario movie. 2024, I believe it was Deadpool and Wolverine and Moana 2 and Inside Out 2. 2025 was Zootopia 2, Neja, and now this year it's gonna probably be Super Mario Galaxy movie. It's probably gonna be Michael. Probably gonna be Spider Man Brand New Day, and probably gonna be Avengers Doomsday. So we'll just have to see to see. But on the closing thing, just Memorial Day, it really was just proving that audiences will show up, right? It was just proving that audiences will show up if the movies actually are worth showing up to. We had Star Wars, we had Michael, Obsession, and then we still had Devil Wears Prada, some other stuff. Project Hail Mary is slowly still making money, but not like it was a few weeks back. Mario, it's like the audiences, we're just demanding more from Hollywood than we ever did before. We're demanding shit that makes us sit in the seats. We're not just giving you the money. I don't think theaters are dead. They still make a crap ton of money off concessions. If you look up theaters profits on concessions, you'd be like, damn, bro. Like yeah. So let's just stop the. They're not going to stop the doom posting, but somebody who is actually cares about the medium honestly will tell you guys that everything isn't as doom and gloom, and the box office is actually growing and getting better and back to pre-pandemic numbers slowly but surely. So I assume by next year we'll probably see a bigger number next year than we did this year. But let's see. We'll see. It's still halfway through the year. We're not even halfway through the year yet, by the way. And the summertime is projected to make $4 billion. So let's just wait and see. So until then, let me know how you guys feel down below. Like, comment, subscribe for more. I'll see y'all on the next one.